Hello learners, continuing on the go-to-market module, but taking a slightly different angle to it this time. Most of our conversation has been using B2C brands, which are business to consumer brands or business to customer brands, and here businesses sell to individual customers. A large part of our learning in sales and in marketing has perhaps come from these, the frameworks and concepts at least, or maybe it's just the background that I come from that I'm most comfortable explaining them to you, whether it is pricing, whether it is product, or it is features, benefits, value in the context of an end user or a customer. However, a large part of the ecosystem is business to business sales and marketing. It's called B2B sales and marketing. Here a company called by the first B sells to another company. So, one business selling to another business, one company selling to another company, and that's called B2B business model. And in this lesson, I am going to hopefully bring alive for you the differences between B2C and B2B, but more importantly, what are the key things that you have to keep in mind when you are selling B2B. It is quite likely that many of you as learners who want to start your own companies will be in B2B businesses and not in B2C businesses. And I say this because it takes a lot of money to build awareness, communication, conversion for individual customers. That is not the only reason. Many of you might be solving problems that other companies have, and that could be a B2B company. So, let us look at, in this lesson, let us look at B2B selling, B2B marketing, and partly what is different from B2C, and most importantly what is needed for B2B businesses. Yeah. So, the first part I have already made, but I will now make this point with data, which is that B2B is a large part of the entire ecosystem, and here is an infographic from Brand Finance. The deep blue is B2C, the lighter blue is B2B, and I will read out some components for you to become clearer. So, B2C comprises of retail, of electronics companies, of automobiles, of restaurants, of apparel, which is fashion, whatever, insurance, oil and gas, all of which are sold to the end user, and some of these are large categories within that. I am now going to read out some from the B2B ecosystem. Banking. Banking is a very large part of it. There are companies selling to banks, and we will see a few of them, but people are selling software solutions, people are selling ATMs, people are selling many things to banking companies. The other big head is called internet and software. Most of you know that in liberalization, which is when India liberalized sometime in the early 90s, 1991-92, is when some of our biggest IT services companies came up, which is Infosys and Wipro and TCS and later Cognizant and so on. So, that is people designing software, providing services to other companies. Then there are commercial services, there is IT services, there is healthcare. All of these add up to being a $2 billion brand value, and more importantly 40% of the global brand value, which means that honestly there is not much to choose. You can either be here or here. It is not like B2B is a small part of the ecosystem, it is a 41% part of the entire ecosystem. Like you are familiar with B2C brands, here is a listing of B2B brands, and you will know some of them for sure. Microsoft is one of the top brands. These numbers change a little, so we have also called out which year was this done, which was 23. Amazon, Most of us see Amazon as an e-commerce company, but one of Amazon's largest business is AWS, and that is a B2B product brand, whatever, B2B product brand firm, you can call it, but we see as consumers Amazon as an e-commerce company serving end consumers like you and me, but know a large part of Amazon's business and perhaps a larger part of Amazon's profits comes from their B2B organization, where AWS is one of the largest products they sell, Accenture, Oracle, Shell, United Healthcare, etc. Yeah. What do these companies do? They target other companies. They target companies, they target other businesses, they target departments within companies. Yeah. They are not, so typically a B2C company will have millions of customers. They'll certainly have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of customers, but B2B companies have tens of clients or hundreds of clients. They don't have millions of clients because there aren't million companies that they can sell to. They develop highly customized products and services or solutions. These are not like what is called a cookie cutter. So, these are not like B2C companies that make standardized products. These are customized products for that particular company. One key success factor for B2B companies is finding the right customers. I have been harping on how customer segmentation is so critical to a B2C organization to be able to sell to the right demographic customer, psychographic, geographic, but in B2B companies it takes another meaning altogether. If you target the wrong companies which are either too small or too big to want you, or whatever other dimension that is of importance, you have wasted time, and it's a large time, as you will see in the next slide. You wasted time, you have wasted effort, and you probably need to restart. Yeah? And after acquiring the right customer, the belief is that you will land and expand, which means you will land in that company with one product or one service that you are offering, but you will grow within the organization. And we discussed this when we discussed sales, where we are talking about hunters and farmers. So, hunters land, they convert one company to be a client of yours, and then the farmers take over and they within that company grow your business. You may have landed with attendance software, I mean as simple as that, but then you grow to do various parts of work for the organization. It usually takes a few months and maybe a year or a year and a half to close a deal, and we will see some of that going forward. So, this is what B2B companies do. This is a B2C customer journey. I have been showing it to you in a vertical form, just flipped it so that I can say a few more things than the vertical format allows me to do. So, this is a customer journey for a B2C car buying. It is not even like a 10 rupee cookie packet or whatever, but it is a X lakh rupee car that a consumer is trying to buy, and it starts with the need recognition, realizes need for a new car, either was a two-wheeler user before or was a car user and needs to replace car, whichever, it feels the need for a new car. Then a large discussion happens with the family, because cars are not bought by individuals, they are bought by getting inputs from everybody who is a family member, and everybody gives all kinds of inputs which is relevant to them. They agree on whether they should buy a sedan or they should buy a SUV or a hatchback or a sports car or whatever. At the same time, they are being bombarded with advertising. Advertising was always there. It was just that since we were not in the mindset of buying a car, that advertising was beaming to us passively. But the moment, and this is called the red car syndrome, which is the moment you have thought that you want to buy a car, you will see more and more and more car ads. Not because somebody has gone into your mind and figured out you want to see cars, that is not the point. You start seeing them because psychologically, so that is called the red car syndrome. If you think of buying a red car, you will see red cars everywhere, that is what it means. So, we are the decision maker or the co-decision makers will be seeing ads, they will visit websites, they will read reviews, they will talk to their friends, they will ask for recommendations. All of this is happening in the awareness time. In consideration, they are getting a little more specific, they are researching models. So far we were in the brands, we were in the companies, now we are researching actual models of cars. We are going to dealerships, we are doing test drives, we are checking financing options because cars are not bought typically without financing. Then the purchase happens, which is the last step, that fourth step called conversion. Select a model, we try to negotiate a price, we make a payment, we complete the documentation and we drive the car out of the dealership. That is the process. There is a fifth part here because a car kind of purchase also has a service component or a post purchase experience. So, we look at mileage, we look at what others are saying about our car, we take it for our first service and so on. So, a lot of the next car buying is dependent on the post purchase experience that we have with this car. So, this entire thing, while it seems like 4 steps in the process and in each of them things are happening, even for something which is multiples of lakhs, the time taken could be a max of 6 months. 2 months to 6 months is what most consumers take today to buy a car. Now contrast that with the next slide, which is a B2B customer journey. In a B2B customer journey, which is my company selling to your company, we will first visit you, meet multiple stakeholders, and here I have taken an example of my company wanting to sell a HR management software. So, HRMS is human resource management software. It is a tool, it is a software that we have designed which can take care of all your HR needs, which could be recruitment, which could be payroll, which could be annual appraisals of your employees or whatever they might be. So, we are capable of designing and developing this tool and installing it and running it at your organization. So, we start with the problem identification where we meet multiple stakeholders in your company. We do not just meet the HR head, we are told to meet the business head, we are told to meet the finance head, because here nazariya matters, the perspective matters. People come up with different features or different aspects that they need from their HRMS, which is their HR management software. We identify the pain points, we identify how will data flow, we identify what is called as is process and a to be process, and then start thinking of not even designing. We are still exploring what the solution could look like. We do market research, we talk to not just one company but multiple companies. The buyer decides, you the buyer will decide whether you want to make this software or you want to buy this software. As in, do you want your in-house team to develop this software or you want to outsource this to another company? All of these discussions are happening within your company, which is the customer, on the solution that they perhaps need. Then they will start writing up their requirements. You will start writing up your requirements and you will put a team on this, which could, like I said, start with somebody from HR, somebody from commercial, somebody from a business side, and the functional requirements will be written, the technical requirements will be written, the documentation of how long this project should take, what is the scope of work, all of this will be undertaken by the company that wants to either make or buy a piece of software. Yeah. Then they will do a vendor selection. For vendor selection, there are standard terms called RFP, which is a request for proposal or a request for information or a request for a quotation. Request for quotation if there is a standard product, otherwise if it is a customized product, there is a request for proposal. So, a company like yours will ask for a request for proposal, my company and maybe 3-4 other companies will bid for it, will write our proposals and submit. So, currently the process that I know of, firstly they're called techno-commercial bids. So, their first evaluation will be on the techno part, which is whether the proposal given by the 2, 3, 4 vendors who have bid for this job have satisfied the requirements that your company put out. So, that is the first check that they will do, whether the technologically they have provided the solution. They could also check for whether this company is capable of delivering this technical solution. Only then will they come to opening the commercial bid of the few, maybe 2, maybe 3, I do not know, but let us say a smaller subset, a subset of the original RFPs will be invited to give their commercial bid, or will have already given their commercial bid, and those will be opened and purchase is decided typically on the lowest price. Same technical specs, lowest price. So, first the technical specs are done and then the lowest price is done. So, this process from both your point of view and from the seller's point of view could take anywhere from 6 months to 18 months. And in this journey, our two companies have been engaged through the entire process. Sometimes companies like yours will take the help of companies of like mine to write the RFP, to write the requirements of the RFP. The technical requirements etc. are often written along with vendors. You may not just take inputs from one vendor, you may take inputs from multiple vendors. So, long and short, even a car buying process, which is an expensive, thought through once in 5 years, 7 years kind of process, takes maybe 2 months to 6 months, but a company deciding to buy a piece of software will take anywhere from 2 months to from 6 months to 18 months. That is the difference between a B2B process and a B2C process. So, the sales cycle for the business to consumer, which is the end consumer, the individual, is standardized. Products are standardized. I mean, they come in 1 liter, 500 ml, they are standardized. I can't change my packaging not very easily, you can change it, but I can't customize it for one person. The decision maker is often the end user. I want the beverage, I will buy it. There are cases where the decision maker and the end user are not the same. Classic example is something like a diaper where the parents buy, but it is used on the baby. But very often decision maker and user are the same. The decisions are influenced by personal preferences, by emotions, by convenience, by easy availability and instant gratification. I am thirsty now, I need a beverage now, I can't wait till tomorrow to make up my mind and a decision. So, a lot of the buying behavior for a B2C product is driven by impulse, or at least driven by preference, which is emotional, not always completely rational, and there is a large part of it which is personal preference, personal gratification, and very often impulse led. So, those are what B2C business is designed for. B2B on the other hand are literally like the reverse of it, or the flip of it. The products and services sold by B2B companies are specialized. So, they are customized to meet unique needs. So, we can have a discussion across the table, not just one time but multiple times, to figure out your needs and customize that solution for you. The decision maker is not always the end user, and decision maker typically in a B2B is not a single person. It is often called a decision making unit, because multiple people, like we discussed in the previous slide of the HR management software, there will be an HR person, business person, definitely a commercial or a finance person, there could be somebody from the purchase department. So, the decision making is both complex and a collective activity. Purchases are decided by long term business needs like ROI, cost efficiency, productivity, scalability, and the process of buying is as far from impulse as it is possible. The process of buying is very thought through, includes a serious amount of deep research that is done, a serious amount of discussions and negotiations that happen before the B2B service or solution is actually bought by the company. Moving to B2C sales and marketing strategies. The first one was the cycle of buying. The second one is about the sales and marketing strategies. Very often B2C communication is emotional. to make a connect with the consumer. So, whether it's communication, whether it is just cheeky packaging, even that's communication. So, the building of a relationship with the consumer is more often than not an emotional relationship. Buying decisions, I said earlier, personal preferences, emotions, immediate needs, and what are the strategies used? Mass media campaigns or social media campaigns. Mass media refers to television, print, radio, etc. Social media refers to the feeds of the social media apps that you are using, and they reach a broad audience, so a large number of customers, and only a subset of those will end up buying. In B2B, the sales and marketing strategies is not about emotion, or if it is about an emotion, that emotion is called trust, which is a very rational emotion. So, trust, credibility, credentials, reliability, durability, all the right kind of associations for a long term relationship. Here the seller needs to showcase to the buyer why they should be trusted. What is the work that they have already done in this domain? Who are the other clients that have worked with them, and how satisfied are they, and will they give you a testimonial? What is the ability of the seller to customize the product? I do not want a cookie cutter product. I do not want something which is off the shelf with you. I like what you have, but I want this module and that module and third, and by the way I do not want this, so please do not charge me for this. All of these are discussions that are happening, and that is how the product itself gets decided. So, there is no standardized product that is available. The sales cycle is longer. There is discussions with existing clients, a consultative engagement, a great desire on the seller's part to understand the real problems that the buyer's company is facing and design a solution tailor made for that. So, not just does the sales cycle differ, the sales and marketing strategies differ. So, selling to a B2B client is usually an in-person engagement, not just once but multiple times in the journey of buying. And again, the seller cannot just be someone from the sales team, it will be someone from the sales team, someone from the technical team, someone from the quality assurance team, and so on. So, this is a group of people that is also selling to a collective on the other side. I am now going to explain some core concepts to you in B2B, and you will realize that they borrow from B2C. So, they are not completely new, but the nazariya, the perspective changes from B2C to a B2B company. The first is target segment, absolutely no difference in thought from the B2C, but here it is possible for a company like mine, which is selling HR management systems, to actually generate a finite list of companies that I will target, and they are segmented based on demographic, psychographic factors. Demographics in companies will include size of the company in terms of revenue, size of the company in terms of employees, the number of locations that this company is based at, the domain that this company is working in. All of these are kind of like the demographic parameters. The psychographic parameters would be change aversion, would be savviness, tech savviness of the company, innovativeness of the company, experimentativeness of the company. So, I am a HR management software, and if I am targeting my first customer, I need to target someone who is more experimental, more change oriented, more tech savvy than a slightly fuddy-duddy company. Going on to the next core concept for a B2B sales and marketing strategy is a decision making unit. So, unlike in B2C where the end consumer, the end user is the same as the buyer, here it is not even that there is a single person buying, it is a decision making unit. These are a group of individuals within the organization who are part of the decision making. Very often if it is a large piece of software or something which is high in value that is being bought, the buying company will set up a task force and include people from multiple functions, into that task force. If that buying company has multiple SBUs, strategic business units, then they will make sure that each of these are part of the task force. So, it is a decision making unit, and therefore, the dynamics of those decision making unit will have to be understood by the seller, will have to be addressed by the seller, and the seller will have to have multiple discussions with individuals within that decision making unit. Some may be as a group, and you will have to have maybe offline discussions with at least the HR team in my case, or the finance team potentially. Yeah. Some other core concept, pitch or messaging, which is no different from advertising or communication, but there is a huge difference, which is that you do not have to create a piece and then air it and blast it. This is actually often just a slide deck, a pitch deck. It could be a video if you prefer, but more often than not, people who are the buyers would like to see a presentation that they are walking through. There could be a product demo which is a video, but it is not a it is not a passive thing where I beam a video at you, but I walk through slides and people on the decision making unit are able to engage and interact and ask questions about things that matter to them more than some other things. After you have figured who is the target list of companies, and you have figured within that who are the first 2 people that you will target, and what is the decision making unit of those companies, those buyer companies, and you have developed a pitch deck, it is called a pitch deck or messaging or a pitch deck, I think that is the right word for it. You also figure what is the most cost effective and impactful way of reaching this company. Sending a cold email may not be the most effective way. We all receive emails that we do not look at. How do you reach this stakeholder? Do you reach this stakeholder through a referral? Referrals work very well. Someone says, I know this company, they have done good work for me, why do not you look at them? Then there is a better chance of getting a meeting, a face-to-face meeting. So, a referral works. Sometimes just making your email messaging not like a blast, not like the same message going to everyone, but the body of the mail being very customized to the understanding of the problem that the other company has, could get a response which is significantly higher than sending this chain mail to everyone. One of the things that a lot of B2B companies do for outreach is they participate in conferences. So, they participate in domain conferences. So, if you are in healthcare, you will participate in a healthcare conference, and this is something I have learned from some of the best in this business, which is that participating in a conference does not mean just putting up a stall, but putting up a impactful stall, and more often than not asking for a speaking slot by being a sponsor of the event or something. So, you get a speaking slot, and in the speaking slot you are not going there to pitch, that is not the role of the speaker. The role of the speaker is to build thought leadership. The role of the speaker is to make the entire audience understand that here is a company that knows what it is talking about, because it is talking of the future, it is talking of trends in the ecosystem, what is happening, etc. The 20 minutes or the 10 minutes are not being used to pitch the product. That is left to the selling team to do, and which is usually a follow-on activity. So, having good pitch deck and having the right kinds of outreach are important. The third set of core concepts are as we are getting closer and closer to closing the sale, to negotiating and closing, there is no single price, there is no MRP, there is no concept of an MRP or the concept of a GMV, which is the word used in the online context. Here cost or price is charged by the seller to the buyer depending on the needs. So, it is determined by perceived value, by a competitive offering, by essentially what the seller thinks they are getting the lowest, and the buyer thinks this is the max I can get. So, that is where the equilibrium happens. Both understand that this is the start of a journey perhaps, and therefore, the seller understands this even better and is often willing to discount at the first stage, knowing that the business or farming or the account management will take over, and the LTV or CLV, which is the customer lifetime value, will be significantly higher than this one time sale that we are doing. So, that is price, and lifetime value of the customer is a prediction that the sales team makes, saying this is the size of their business, the seller's business, this is what we are going in with. Over the next 3-year horizon, we expect to sell A, B, C other services to them. Therefore, this is my cost of acquisition. Cost of acquisition is the cost of the salespeople, which is time. Time is the biggest cost here. I told you it takes 18 months to close an order, and sometimes it is not just one person, it could be a team of 3, 4 different people at different points of time. So, essentially time is the biggest cost, and so it is always the customer acquisition cost, CAC, is measured against the lifetime value of the customer. A ballpark of 5 is a good one, which is it costs me $1 million to get one customer, but I get a 5 million revenue or a 5 million profit from the customer. That is the customer lifetime value. The sales cycle for B2B runs like this, and this one is literally drawn like a process, so it is easy to relate to. So, the first component is identifying the target segment. I told you it is a finite number. The second is understanding the decision making unit, we have spoken about that a little. The third one is making an effective pitch for that segment or for that customer, actually not even just a segment. The fourth is figuring what is the most cost effective, high impact way to reach your target segment to be able to deliver that pitch. And I said thought leadership, it could be content, it could be emailers with content, it could be participating in a conference. Many of these are options available to a B2B seller. The next is deriving your best price, and this is very dynamic. Today's best price could be X and tomorrow's could be something else. Closing the sale and winning the client, and here it does not end here, it then goes on to achieve the customer lifetime value through good farming and account management. So, it is a literally step by step process. So, if you are a B2B seller, if your company wants to be in the B2B business model, I hope that this lesson was useful to you, because this explains to you what are the steps, step 1, step 2, step 3 till step 7 that you need to follow to close a deal with a B2B buyer. The business to government is a subset of the B2B. A few more technical things get added, the RFP, the tendering process might come in, but the concepts remain the same, which is identifying the customer segment, identifying the decision making unit, making a persuasive pitch deck, outreach to the right people and the right means, finding the right price, closing the deal, and then building your company within your buyer organization. So, this was B2B sales and marketing, and I hope this was useful to you. Thank you.